take a breather here, a few Q&As. Looks like we're getting, I think my other live room is up and running. For those of you folks that have never run webinars before, they're kind of a lot of fun. You actually get to 2 or 3 different computers kind of going. You can see this here and that there, and it's kind of a challenge, but welcome to you from Sinclair, Wyoming, from our studio here up in the high reaches of the Parco Inn. I'll show you a picture of our building here in just a moment. My name's Mike Holmes, and we'll get going and do some connection here in just a little bit. We do have, let me just jump over quick so you can see. Tanem is the guy on I think on your right, at least on my right there, with his wife there. He's off camera today. He runs our back end studio on things and runs a lot of the tech side. And I sure appreciate him being with us. Be praying for him. He had some surgery on his foot recently and not able to get around and move around the way that he would like to, but he's getting more mobile every day as we go. So I want to get back to our slides, and we're going to get started here. This is the Sunday morning visitors, how to get them to return. We're going to talk a little bit about that. You might be in the right place here if you're bivocational. And a lot of our folks, we find, as we work with many bivocational churches, and that might be a good poll to put up, Tanem, whether we're dealing with some people that are working some part-time job, or I know a lot of our bivocational guys, many of them are doing online stuff. We have some people that are, selling everything from baseball cards to recipes and things online to keep supporting their church. Spent a considerable amount of time this week with a guy, one of our academy students, who sells cowboy boots online, and like ostrich and all those kind of things. So if you're bivocational, it's often that you find yourself in a situation that you don't have enough time to get the visiting kind of stuff done. So we want to try to give you some systems that are going to, help with that and kind of take you through that. You might be in the right place if you get a lot of first-time visitors, but no seconds. And we have had many churches as we talk with them. We do polls with them all the time, especially through our Reaching Young Families website. Reaching Young Families, not the website, but the Facebook page. We get a lot of feedback there. And we get a lot of people that have they get first-time visitors, but they don't come back, and they're concerned about that, and that it's worth being concerned about. And if you're concerned about that, you're in the right place. If you're really hungry, you're just hungry and you want more people, that's part of really what this is all about, is that. And then the last one here is if your church really needs to grow, and some of this gets down to this idea of kind of self-preservation, which we're not like church growth fanatics, like grow at any cost or whatever. But you know what? If your church doesn't get enough critical mass, so to speak, to sustain itself, and it ends up closing, that doesn't do the community any good. And we have some churches, many of them, that are kind of approaching, and some that are in that area, where if they don't get some new people soon, they just might have to close the doors, because you can only go so far. You've got to have a critical mass of things there. But if you're in that frustration area, whether you're not getting them back or you're just really hungry to reach those people, then you're in the right place. So I'm Mike, by the way, from Sinclair Baptist. This is our church in the background. You can see, yes, the big green dinosaur is the Sinclair fuel refinery. All that is just right behind our building. We are part of a company town, and we bought the old hotel that was in downtown, and now we are a church of about, we're running, COVID, of course, devastated us, but we run about 100 people, 90 to 100 right now. And we are in a little refinery town of 400 and some, pretty close to another town of a county seat of about 8,000. So we have somewhere 8, 9, 10,000 people to kind of draw off of. And that's what we work with. So we're very excited about the work that's going on here. I am the founding pastor. We recently put a new pastor into position, and we're very excited about that, Pastor Josh. And I think he actually might be online with us here. Not sure. He might still be in a meeting downstairs, but it's good to have him taking the reins. Allows me to be a little bit more flexible and be on the road. I get out to many of the local churches and speak, and I'm doing a lot of youth worker training right now. Head to Oregon, got stuff in Nebraska, got stuff in Wisconsin, got some Illinois things, a lot of stuff going on over the next several months. And excited to be able to serve the broader community of churches that we work with. So anyway, that's kind of our background. Let's just jump right into where we're going. Kind of give you this overview here of where we're going. And let me take a tech break and put my screen on here, or my glasses on, to see if we can actually get this. Yeah, I'm still not picking up our room live the way it should be, Tanim. I'll send you a screenshot of what we got there. But anyway, we're going to go over a couple things. The big problem, we're going to go through a couple of givens. In other words, those sort of like prerequisites that you may or may not have in place, but they'll need to be in place eventually if you're going to bring guests back a second time. Then we're getting into the meat of it, is just kind of the how to do it. And that's the bulk of everything. And then there's a kind of a little key to success, sort of a work on it type of tip I want to give you. Then we got the resources at the end. We'll just give you a bunch of links. And I believe also, Tanim, are you still on microphone? Can you let them know? Will these be emailed to them immediately, or are they getting these at the end? How does that work?
I set that email to go up about an hour after start time, so they should get them in about 55 minutes.
Okay. All right. And was trying to shoot you a screenshot here of what we got. I'm reloading it, but yeah, we're not. It says this webinar has ended. Oh, well, that's nice.
Which means you went into the wrong room.
Yeah. So anyway, that's life. And then I got one of these. You can see that one. All right. Anyway, good to have you here. Let's just jump into and anytime if you have questions, by the way, you can type those in. And let me just say this too, for those of you that are viewing this, we are doing this live. This is live. We're right here doing this right now. But you might be catching the replay of this or a rerun of this later on, which these things get sent back out and people watch them later. So while we're doing it live, and it appears to be live to you, it may not be live, although we happen to be live today. So I know that's kind of confusing, but that's kind of the new way of the way video is. Everything kind of goes out a little bit later, or some type of delay, or you're watching it on a replay, which we have a lot of our people catch the replays on this. So let's just jump into the problems to solve. And here's kind of the basics. I put them all on one page. You can't disciple people that are gone, okay? And if you're burdened to reach people and to win people to Christ and some of that, if they're not there, you can't do much, okay? I mean, yeah, you can still do a few things through email and those kind of things, but it is not easy to do that kind of stuff. So they got to be absent. The next one here is your outreach, to newer people is stifled when you have lower numbers. It's just harder to kind of get things going when you don't have as many workers. In fact, the next one down kind of amplifies that a little bit more, is your momentum for your church starts to kind of, nosedive a little bit when people come and then they don't come back. And that affects everybody. It's like, oh, everyone gets excited. Oh, we have some guests, and they don't come back. And we have some guests, and they don't come back. And, we have some guests, and it's like, oh, they don't come back. What's wrong with us? You kind of wonder about yourself sometimes. And I don't know about you, but it makes me wonder, like, did I say something wrong? Did I have bad breath? Did I shake their hand too hard? Did I, all that stuff kind of goes through your mind. And we know it's in the Lord's hands.
Because we stopped doing fresh cinnamon rolls every Sunday morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's that, Tanim?
It's because we stopped doing the fresh cinnamon rolls every Sunday morning. We used to do fresh cinnamon rolls. They're back up and going. You need to be here, man. I know
You've missed a few because of your surgery, but we have fresh cinnamon rolls. Yeah. But yeah, you wonder, it's like, was it because we didn't get their sidewalk shoveled, or, their kids weren't happy in the kids program, or someone, growled at them, or they, met somebody they didn't like. There's a lot of things go through your mind. And so when they don't come back, and when you have the never returners, it can kind of wear on your personal momentum there. And then the last one is just that idea that the whole community, the idea, I believe, of the local church, is to impact the community. I mean, I want to be an Acts chapter 2 kind of church. I mean, man, we want to Acts chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We want to really, make a huge difference where we're at. That's one of our goals. We want to preach the word. We want to be faithful to God and faithful. And we don't do results at any cost, but we do want to see some impact. So that's a very, very important thing. Community impact just kind of starts to wane when the numbers get lower and lower and lower. And when a church gets grayer and grayer and grayer, and we're not really focusing on talking about young families on this, but a lot of our training is, for teaching young families and how to kind of get them going. So anyway, those are some of the problems that we want to solve. So and again, at any time, if you have questions or whatever, you can type those in and put those in the little slot there, and we will get to those. We'll talk about your questions whenever we might kind of save them towards the end, or we have a couple breaks in the middle here. We'll get to those. But if you got some questions, please ask those. So let's give it the two givens here. And these are kind of what I would call sort of a prerequisite. Okay. The first one, you see the Air Jordans here coming in. You see them coming in. And this is the idea that you are expecting folks to return. And there's the idea of like, yes, we want them to come back. And everybody in your church is expecting guests to return. That's a given, because it's not always that way. Because sometimes when people come, you're like, oh, they were a little different than us, or they dressed a little different, or they acted a little different. But folks, if we want to reach people, we need to have a heart for reaching people and expect them to come. And they're not going to be exactly solid people right off the bat. And we're not talking about guests of, church type people returning. We're talking much more about unchurched people that came to your church, and new or younger families, and then they might have different, things about them. But we want to be expecting them to return, which really kind of takes us to this next idea here is that you have to have the church itself, your people need to be this fertile landing ground, we call it in a lot of our training. They need to be a place like soil. Like, let me give you this picture here I found. This is just like this luscious forest. It's like anything could grow, in this. It looks like it's just blooming and blossoming. Our churches need to be like that, where they got good soil, people land, and they start to grow. Unfortunately, sometimes our church is a little bit different. In other words, like on the picture on my left here is a picture of an old bottle laying on the ground, kind of the ground's all cracked and dried up. It's like that is not fertile ground. Okay. It had promise at one time with an old water bottle, but it's not good. Or even the one on the right, if you got your face in there close enough, you'd go, wow, look, there's something growing. But if you back up and see the big picture, it's not really a fertile place there. And our church needs to be that. We need to be expecting guests to return, and we need to have that fertile landing ground that need to be ready. Now, if you are wanting to focus on that idea of the fertile landing ground, we just did a bunch of podcasts on our Better Sundays podcast, and you can go over there to bettersundays.com. And there's a link you can find our YouTube. In fact, you can go to our YouTube channel, the Reachkeep YouTube channel. And Tanim, you might put the address to that up. It's just, I think it's just, you'd go to YouTube and type in Reachkeep, and that's whatever that address is. But that'll get you there. But you can find this. It talks about our podcast, and then you can go to bettersundays.com and find that, or you can go to Spotify or iTunes or whatever your browser is that you use, or not browser, but podcatcher to catch your podcast. And you can go to that. That will help you. We did 6 or 7 short, simple podcasts on how to have that fertile landing ground and to make sure that you were ready for that. So that was it. So now let's just jump into how to do it. Let's get into the things. I'm going to throw up all three things, and then I'm going to spend some detailed time going through all of these. Three things to do to get guest return. We're going to talk about a letter, okay, that you're going to send, or a card, but it's going to be something that's physical in the mail, email, and an invitation. And let me just kind of clarify these a little bit more. It's a physical letter that goes in your mailbox. Okay, the email is an email from the head honcho, okay, from the pastor, okay, and the invitation to the next event. And then it ends with this three little words, with a reason. Invitation with a reason. And we'll get into details of what that means. The first two are kind of physical things that you can kind of do and type. The third one is a little bit more kind of for you advanced people, but it is really, really important. And all three of these, you can have these, you could actually do these by tomorrow. Okay. We're doing this. If you're watching this on a replay, who knows when you're watching it, but we're doing this on a Saturday. And in fact, Tanim, while we have everybody on here, could you put a poll up quick and see what the best day for webinars are? Okay. We poll this constantly, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We do a lot of them on Thursday, Friday. Those days work pretty good for us. This is a Saturday webinar. We didn't have as many people registered for this one as we thought we probably would. Some of our bivocational people, it's better. Saturdays seem to work better for them if they're working the 8 to 5, Monday, Friday. But nonetheless, let us put a poll up there somewhere and just interrupt me when you get to it and let them know where the poll is. When is the best time to do?
Right now.
Go ahead. Yeah, take it away.
A couple of thoughts, things that we're not necessarily covering, but things that have actually caused issues for me when I was visiting a church. And honestly, they're enough that if I was back in that town, I probably would not go back to that church because it was confusing. One of them being improper signage. There was a church here. I told you about this. It was about 1.5 years ago when I was going up to Casper for doctor's appointments, and that poll is up live now. Okay. And we went in, and the people were all great. They were very friendly people. It was a welcome, inviting church. I chatted with the pastor and the music director and everybody for a little while. But I couldn't find that. It was kind of a sprawling building. You kind of went in the door, and the chapel was right there. Mm-hmm. But then the bathrooms and the fountains and the Sunday school classes and the nursery were all down a hall, around a corner, down a hall, and there was no signage to any of it. And that's really confusing, and that a lack of signage can actually keep people from coming back. And that poll is now live.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. We'll get some other suggestions in here just a little bit. Let me dive into, I want to get into the letter to be mailed, and we're going to be talking about a physical letter that is to mail. It is something that you put a card in an envelope and you send it to people, and you put a stamp on it. I know that's kind of old school for a lot of people, but because it's old school and because everything is digital and texting and, all the SMS messaging and, Facebook messaging and all that, when somebody gets a card and an envelope in the mail, it makes a tremendous impact on them because it is a unique thing. This really goes also, everything I'm saying here too, you can adapt a little bit for your children's program. So we regularly, when we have first-time guests in our kids program, those kids will get something in the mail from our workers as well. Sometimes it's a postcard. They don't necessarily put things inside it like we do with the adult ministry. But that is a great way to do it, is just to make sure you get a card and something in the mail, because like I say, email and texting is everywhere, and it's thick and heavy, but still what we got. So it needs to be mailed on Monday. So we're talking about the front door of the church is the Sunday morning people. And so we have folks that show up on Sunday morning. That is kind of the main time people are going to try out your church. So by Monday, it needs to be in the mail. We'll talk about a system, how to build that to make that happen in just a little while. But it needs to be out the door and done. Don't leave it any later in the week. You want them to get it right away earlier in the week, so they get talking about it. Inside that envelope, besides just typical like, hey, thanks for coming, you need to have something that answers some of the questions that people have about church. Now, you can get very technical or very good at this. Like, so if they were in the kids program, you'd put a kids brochure in. If they were seniors, you might put something about a senior program. If they volunteered, or they had interest in a volunteer food ministry, you might put something in that envelope. But what you want to do is you want to answer questions that they might have. And so a typical brochure would be fine to put in there. If you have a general church brochure, you could on your letter actually say, thanks for coming, blah, 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 signed Pastor Mike. And then at the bottom is like information about our kids program, teen, middle school, high school program, volunteer food ministry that we have, other ministries. And you could have just a little bit. You could put links to websites would be good in there. But just you want to give a little bit more information in this thing so they are getting something. We have done QR codes, the little barcode-y kind of things where you scan them. We've done those where they can jump off and hit different things. And those are some more advanced kind of things. But you want to have an envelope mailed on Monday with answers. And then the last thing is you want to do something there, and this is where it exceeds expectation. You want to give them a gift card of some sort to a local coffee shop. We've tried that. We've done a bunch of different little kind of gift cards, but what we ended up with was a $5 Subway card. Okay, so they get a gift card, a $5 Subway card, and in there it says, we believe that, spiritual health is more important than anything else. So we want to just send you a little something to help you with your physical health. Eat healthy at Subway, blah, blah, blah. Something along that line, that kind of text. And by the way, I put a picture of a bunch of them up here because you want to make sure that you give a gift card for every person. So if it's a husband and wife, you give them two $5 gift cards. Okay. So you're going to get those gift cards are going for all guests, as it says at the bottom there. Let's see if I can hit my little button here. Yeah. Oh, I'm not a very good drawer, but right there, you want to make sure you send a gift card. Now we have done this and this has exceeded expectations. So you don't want to send just a $5 card for a family of 4. They're going to starve to death on that. They're not going to chop a sub into little bitty pieces. Everybody. So if they have 4 kids in Sunday school, okay, and 1 in the nursery, total of 5 plus a husband, wife, we send 7 cards. We send 7 cards to them. And I got a little pushback on this at first from some of our, some of the folks that, okay, let's see. I think I just totally messed something up here. Let me do something here. Tandem, what have I done? Okay, there we go. All right. Got myself back where I need to be. It's usually a husband and wife that comes, or a couple of kids or whatever. But I am more than willing to budget and put money to make sure that I am getting those as much as possible. I am getting a lot of that right there. I'm taking care of those guests. Okay, they are guests to me, and I am going to do something special. I'm going to exceed their expectations, and I want to just encourage you to come up with something. Again, we've done the coffee at different places, and that kind of works okay. But the Subway card is something that really works well across the board. We have a Subway in our town, and it works really really good. And people come to us all the time and say, hey, thanks for taking me for lunch, or thanks for the meal. That was great. We get all sorts of thank yous from this type of thing. So a gift card for all your guests is something that you want to do. So that's the letter to be mailed. So anyone got any questions on that? You can write those in and we'll take a look at them. Just put that in that chat area there. Let's just jump now to the email from the pastor. And I'll give you the things that need to come from the pastor here. First of all, you need to capture their email address if you're going to send them an email. Now, this is for some churches, you just have a visitor card and you got a little card and you hand it to them and would you please fill that out? And lots of times they don't do that. So we suggest, and we have taught on this many times. And in fact, I think one of our next webinars we'll probably end up doing in February or early March is we're going to talk about what we call connection cards. The idea of that every single person fills a card out every single Sunday. And these cards, I've got just a few sample cards here, are cards that we have collected from everybody in our church service. So when you come in, you get a bulletin and a card, and it has a place for you to fill out prayer requests on there. There's a lot of different things, ways to do that, and you probably need to attend that class to get the gist of it. But everybody fills out a card, so your guests all fill out a card. All your people fill out a card. There's check marks on there for they can volunteer to come to this. They say, hey, I'm going to make it to this class, this special class. I'm going to help tomorrow afternoon, with the food ministry. I would be interested in having some more information about the children's ministry. Here's my prayer request, all of that. But on there's a place where they put their email address. And I'll give you just a quick little tip here. One of the best ways to get their address or even their cell phone number is to, during your sermon, to say, I have, partway through your sermon, you go, boy, I've got some really good information on this topic. I did a lot of study. I came up with a lot. I don't have time to teach you all of this during the sermon. So I put together a page of notes, or I have a page with some links to a couple websites that will really help you on this particular topic. And if you fill out your little card, and as a pastor, you got your card there, you say, if you take your pen and put your email address right on there, I will, this afternoon, I will email you the links to that website that I was just talking about, and to be a big help to you. So go ahead and take your card out now. Go ahead and write your cell phone number on there. Go ahead and put your email address, and I will get that to either one of those. It's a great way to do that. So anyway, you've got to capture their email address, and this is part of the bigger picture of some of the things that we teach here. And again, we'll do a thing on connection cards and get that to you. But you want to email them something from the pastor. So you're going to email it to them. You want to send it before Monday. So sometime, I usually do mine in the, after, that evening or even that afternoon. The afternoon is the best time to do it. They go home and they get an email from the pastor. They just at the church a few hours ago, and now they got an email from the pastor, and it says, thanks for coming, and some of that. In fact, I'll give you the rest of the content here. But you need to create a system, and this needs to become a habit where you sit down after church, flip through these cards, and get those things done. Another way to do it, and I don't know if I've got a copy here or not, but our church secretary is just really sharp on some of this stuff. What she does is she flips through these cards right away, and we have a high percentage of people fill these cards out. She goes through them, and if somebody emailed and is a first time guest, I get their email. She sends that right to me, or she puts it on the back of a pastoral dashboard that we have, and I have their email address before I leave the building. And so I'm able to shoot them an email, or if they signed up for something special, I have those email addresses. I have those cell phone numbers. I'm going to text all the information out to the people I said, but I want to do that afternoon. If you can do it that afternoon, I'm telling you, it makes an impression. impression. The next thing I want to add to this, okay, is that when you email out, this is much better than the card. Okay, we talked about a letter a few minutes ago. The letter's got a Subway card in it. That's a great thing that you can do. But one of the things that you can do on an email that you can't do is you can send links. Okay, so you send them a link to something. Now, if they are just a first-time guest, there's several ways to several different things that you can do with this. Okay, you can send them a link and say, oh, here's the link that you requested during the service because you solicited. Hey, put your address down. I'm going to send you a link on. For example, I'll give you a really easy example. Okay, for example, something on like creationism. There are a lot of information out there on creationism that's really good, that is online kind of stuff. The Answers in Genesis people, the ICR, Institute for Creation Research, they have all sorts of good things. And some of that stuff is very scientific data. We've got pictures, got videos, there's YouTube's associated with it. You could send that kind of a link. That's a really good link to send if you're teaching on that. You could say, hey, we believe Bible's created in 6 literal 24-hour days, and here's a link that talks a little bit about that. You send that link out. You can do that, though, to just these guests. And so a guest comes and they didn't sign up for anything, but you got their email address, say, hey, I just thank you so much for coming to our church. I really appreciate it. I hope you'll visit us again. We got our, next service is going to be, and next week I'm teaching on that type of thing. We'll cover that in just a minute. But by the way, here is a link to a really nice video that is done really well that talks about how God created the heaven and the earth. And you just put that in the PS. Here's a great video on this. Here's a great video that talks about what we believe, and it goes to link back to your webpage, your church's webpage, where maybe you talk about the basics of what your church believes. Here's a link that goes back to our children's ministry. And you then have a little tour on your website of your children's ministry. You see what I'm saying? You can send a link. Now, if you don't have those for your website, and I know some of you are going, I can't even change my website. I talked to a guy the other day, and he doesn't even have access to his website. The guy that did it left the church or moved away, transferred away, doesn't have the credentials, and so their website is like locked. They can't make any changes to it. So I know you're thinking, oh, this is a lot of work. But the easy way is send them to a relevant link or a video that you didn't do. But it's something that you believe. It's something that's good. Like say you preached on depression or whatever, and you found a really good video that deals about, gives 2-3 verses on depression, and it's a short little YouTube video about, getting the joy of the Lord back in your life. Send them a link to that. That's a very simple way to do it. But if you want people to come back, you need to provide solutions for them. We say every Sunday solve a problem. So every person that comes to our church is going to get some type of link that week in an email to them that's going to help them and help them to grow. So these first-time guests are like, it wasn't like they just walked in the building and left and then they never got any. Now they're getting, not only they're getting a card in the mail in a couple of days, but on that Sunday, they got something from the pastor. And it was a link to a really cool video about, biblical parenting or, something along that line. So find some link that you really like. It's something that, it doesn't have to necessarily go back to your website. You could do that as well. But find something that works really well and send that back. So an email from the pastor that has that link. And then one more thing is you want to, in this email that you send them, you want to ask them a question. The email is going to have a question in it, and it's going to be an easily answered. It's not like name the 12 tribes of Judah or whatever. It's not. It's not some kind of a biblical question, but it might be, are you new in the area? I saw that you have children, but I didn't get to talk with you about your children. Did your children enjoy our Sunday school program? any kind of question along that line. Now, we happen to live in a transient type society where we are. Don't know about where you're watching this video from, but we have a lot of people kind of move in and out or something, so you can ask simple questions. I hope you had a good time. Did you find that class that you went to helpful? Have you ever been to a Baptist church before? Have you ever been to a service like ours before? Have you, just ask some kind of simple question. Will your wife be able to make it with you next week? Say you were talking to them, and usually when you talk to people a little bit, when you meet the guests, you kind of get a feel for what they're doing there. Okay. If they're just passing through, how did the rest of your trip go? But you want to ask a question because you want them to email back. Okay. This is one of the secrets to this thing, is you want them to email back, because they are going to email back. And here are some of the ones that we've had. Yes, we just are passing through the area, but we'd like to know more about the church. Could we get a copy of your doctrinal statement? Boom. That's a good question. So yes, we're going to send a link to that. Yes, just came to the area. I hope to bring my wife. Do you have a midweek service? When is that? Okay. Do you have a kids program? They're going to ask a question back. When you ask them a question, they're going to ask you a question. And folks, what you want to do is get the dialogue going back and forth. So you email. And if you are wanting to really, really get these guests to come back the second time, then you start to create some type of dialogue with them. Okay. So that is the email from the pastor. Now, let me just take a break in a minute here, because I got to take a drink of water. We have coming up next week our main webinar that we do. We do this a lot. It's one of our favorite teaching things that we do. It's how to reach new young families when you don't have any, okay, or you don't have many. And we have a lot of people that come to this class, and it helps you if you don't have any kids. It helps you to get kids and church families to come. And it is not just to reach children like a bus ministry. We're going to help you learn how to reach families. So that's what's coming up next week. So, Tanim, can you find a registration link to that? Or maybe we already have that. Is that being mailed out? Do you know? I'm not sure. Let me take a drink of water while you're giving us an answer to that.
Yeah. The email that you're going to get here in about a half hour will have the registration link for that.
Good. Attaboy.
The videos and the PDFs. But hey, something I want to mention here real quick is there's a big why to all of this, especially like the email from the pastor and the letter. Quite a few times when I've been, asking people to come to church and things, one of the things I hear, and it really just breaks my heart to hear it, is, oh, the church is just after my money. They're always talking about my money. They always want me to give them money. And this email from the pastor really is an opportunity for you to show them, after they've been there once, that you're interested in something other than their money. You're not just after the tithes and offerings. You actually care about them as a person and their spiritual growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is one of those things. The more that you start to invest in their life and get hold of them, the more they're going to grab hold of some of that. So, all right. Hey, let me jump to this last one here. This is what I call this part of the how. We talked about a letter. We talked about an email. The last one is an invitation. And I'm not speaking of like an invitation at the end of a church service, a come forward altar call type of thing. But I'm talking about an invitation with a reason. Okay. They must hear sometime during their visit. We want them to hear an invitation to return. Okay, so that's going to be either from the pulpit, where you're talking, hey, hope that you can make it next week, and then give the reason. We'll talk about that in a second. Or they're going to hear it from individuals, or they're going to get it in the card, or they're going to get it in the email. but they need to be invited. And the important thing to remember is we're dealing with people that are different than us. Okay. We are going to be at church because we have a habit. We're going to be at church because we have a routine. We have a ritual, even if you want to call it. They don't have that. They show up because they're invited. They show up because of an event. People, come because we say this all the time. People come because of events. They come because of invitations to events. They stay because of relationships, and that's why we're trying to build that relationship. But they have to be invited. I saw something the other day. It's like people shouldn't have to be begged to come to church, or they shouldn't have to be begged to come to church. It's like, well, I wouldn't use the word beg, but how about invited? I mean, certainly they have to be invited to church. I mean, otherwise they're going to sit home and they're going to sleep in that day, or they're going to, work in their garage that day or whatever. But if you say, we have something going on, we have we have something here, that's valid, and we need to invite them to church. But they need to hear that or read that. So the email, the card, your people from the pulpit, all of those places they need to do that. If you want them to come back the next week, give them an invitation to come back the next week. And you need to give them the benefits rather than just the features. Okay. So for example, here's a pretty typical announcement. Don't forget, and for all our first-time guests too, we have a service tonight at 6:00. And it's right here in this room, and we'd love to have you at 6:00. And so be there, and all the rest of us going to be there because go. You got something, Tanner?
Yes, and I know I have to interrupt you if I want to get a word in edgewise. Speaking of benefits and features, I used to, years ago, I used to sell electronics back when, Pentium wasn't even a thing yet. And that was one of the things they taught us, as salesmen, is nobody cares what 1080p is if they don't know what 1080p does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's all about, and we used to have a guy who could take any microwave on the wall and cook a tender steak in it. And the benefit of that microwave was that you could actually cook a steak to medium well and have it be tender if you use that microwave to do it. Now, the guy could do it with any microwave on the wall, but he would pick the one he wanted to sell that day. And that was one of the features of that microwave, was being able to cook a tender, juicy steak in that one.
Yes, and benefits are, if we're not careful, by the way, features are super easy to say. Our church is at 400 Link. We got a service at 9:30. We got one at 11. We got a midweek at 6:30. We have all these, features that are just features. But the benefit, and here's what you need to say in this invitation. So, hey, I'd like to invite you to come to our evening service where we're going to be talking about how you can have peace in the midst of a storm. You can have peace in your family. You can have, financial peace or what, but you give some type of benefit. And so this is the important thing. So when you are inviting them to come back to church the next Sunday, you need to say what the benefit is, not just the feature. I would love to have you come back next Sunday, 9:30 or 11. I will be talking about how you can have hope when you're in the middle of a hurt, when you have been wounded and deep down inside, feels like someone stuck a knife inside you. You can have hope during that time, because every one of us are going to have hurts and pains. And sometimes we're going to think we're all alone, but I'm going to teach you a simple trick. So please come next week as I show you from the Bible a simple little thing that you can believe on. You see what I'm saying? That's the idea of giving them. You give them a benefit, not just the feature. If it were me and I was coming to your church, and I see some of you on here that I know, Mike from up in Wawa, up on the northern side of Lake Superior here. I know you're on with us here today. I'm coming to your church no matter what, because you and I built a relationship by talking over the phone and through our academy and all that. I'm coming to your church no matter what. It doesn't matter what you can preach on. I'm going to be there for your service or your midweek or whatever it happens to be. But we're not talking about people like you and me. We're talking about people that need to have an invitation, okay, and they need to have a reason why they come. And this is just the gist of it's like, you know, all of advertising is based on this. You know, it's like, hey, you know, buy our Coca-Cola because it's refreshing, you know, the drink that refreshes. They don't tell you about the calories that are in it. It tells you what it's going to do for you, the benefit. So make sure when you give the announcement, when you give that invitation, whether it is written, please join us next week as we are covering this topic of creation versus evolution. And our children have learned a lot of things in our schools, but I want to teach you a different viewpoint, you know, and you're going to enjoy it. You know, it's going to, you see what I'm saying? So that is part of it. Let me jump to the next one here. Okay. This is the idea of creating anticipation. And in your invitation that you give, you want to create a level of anticipation. We do this with our children all the time in vacation Bible schools. You know, you tell the story, you leave the cliffhanger, and you say, would you like to hear the rest of the story? Come back tomorrow. You know, as I finish the story, you know, of so-and-so, the missionary story. But you want to do what you can to create some anticipation. I'm going to teach you what the book of Colossians chapter 2 says that is going to affect you for the rest of your life. I am going to teach you what Titus chapter 3, you know, I'm going to teach you what the Hebrews says. I'm going to give you and you use the Bible, but I'm going to give you some things. I've been studying this and I am so excited about delivering this message to you. See you next Sunday. It's going to be great. Okay, so you create anticipation. Now, we have a video we're going to talk about at the end, a little YouTube video that talks about this. Okay, it's creating anticipation, and so you'll get the link, but I'll talk about it here in just a moment. But how to create anticipation. Anticipation is one of the most powerful human behaviors that there is. Just think back of the time when, like, your dad or your mom or somebody said, "Hey, we're going to go fishing next Saturday." Well, man, you got, you know, way early, you started getting your fishing stuff ready and you got excited and you got the map out and look, where's it going to be? And you got thinking about the bait and you got thinking, you know, anticipation is a powerful thing. And we want to use that to our advantage. And again, this is not manipulation. This is just being wise and just letting people know what you're talking about and sharing your passion for the exciting stuff that you have been studying and preparing for. And if you're an expository preacher and you've been kind of digging through, like the book of Titus or whatever, and you're like digging through those first chapter or two, you're like, oh, I got some good stuff here. Then let people know, like, next week, we're going to get to chapter 1, verse 13, and we're going to dig in. And it is so good. I found something I never thought I would find. And you're going to love it too. So we'll see you next week. That type of thing. Those are the kind of things. You give them an invitation with a reason, and you focus on the benefits of it, and you create that anticipation. And then what we call the rule of threes applies here. And this is the idea that they would be given this invitation. You want to make sure that it comes from several different places. Okay, so they're going to hear it from you in your email. They're going to catch it in the letter. They're going to hear it from the pulpit. They're going to hear it from social media. They're going to hear it from somebody that, just a random person says, hey, I hope you can come next week because Pastor's talking about creation versus evolution. It has been so good. You're going to really like what he has to say. All of that type of thing. They're going to see it in a printed format, like of what the next week is going to be, and the next week is going to be, and the next week's going to be. It's going to create that anticipation. In fact, I'll do this. Let me see if I can go to this real quick. I got to click on the right button. Last week I showed this to Tana. Tana asked me to show this as well, and I can turn my camera here. All right, this is a flyer. I have it up here. It's been up here for a long time, and I really, really like it. It's from a couple of years back, but it's called How to Handle a Hurt, and it has the different weeks of what is going on. And we worked on these sermons ahead of time, got some great text for all these things, but it has what is going on. So, don't forget to come next week. Don't forget to come next week. Okay. Don't forget to come, next week. That type of thing. You can have printed materials like that that will show your people, that will create that, and will get them going. And that's what that rule of 3 applies down there, is where, let's see if I can circle. All right, there it is. Okay, the rule of 3s. Make sure 3 different times that those people are getting they're getting what they need. Okay, so in other words, it needs to be out there as much as possible. Your people need to know what's going on. They need to invite somebody to come. Your people that are sending out the cards, they need to invite people to come. You want to give them a reason to return. Okay, so the review is just the letter, okay, the email, and the invitation with a reason. So, all right, you might have some questions here. I'm going to, if you can type those in tandem, if you have some of those, we'll save some of those here for just a moment. Let me jump as we're running out of time. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. Let me give you a couple little keys here for success. Number 1 is think systems. In other words, if you're going to do some of this, you want to kind of create a system for some of this. In other words, like our secretary gets these cards and gets the thing off of the cards, and I get it on a piece of paper before I head out the door. That's a system. And that works. So you got to kind of sort of do that systematic thinking. And that is kind of what we call a work on it and not in it type of thing, where you're going to sit down and go, okay, how can we get the email addresses from everybody? And not like, oh, what do we need to email today in the next 2 hours to get to somebody, but how can we better get email addresses? We only got 1 this week, or we didn't get any last week, and we need to do better. Is there a better way to capture their email addresses? That is a work on it moment, and you need to do that. Think that through. And then the last one is the kind of this idea, and part of the work on it and part of the system is to hand off the busy work. So what we did is we create a way where we have their address. We've captured it on this card. These cards are turned in. They go to a person in our church, and the best case scenario is they fill out a little flip open card with the name and the address, and they put the little subway card in there, and they might handwrite. Don't forget, next week we're learning about creationism. You're going to enjoy Sunday. I hope you can make it. And you created a system, and you created someone to help you do that. By the way, there are people that can do a lot of volunteer things like this. They can't volunteer in other areas. They can't teach a Sunday school class. Okay, they might be too old or unqualified or handicapped or whatever. They can't work with kids and do all the rah-rah busy stuff, but they can collect the cards and they can handwrite notes and send these to people. And those cards then can help bring people back for a second-time visitor. That can be their entire ministry. It's such a wonderful thing, is to delegate some of that ministry out that way. So you can hand off some of that busy work. So wanted to kind of give you those. That's how to get the success established there. All right, let's talk about some training stuff, something to give you a little follow-up, because we promised to be done within the hour. We have some YouTube training videos, and I'll just tell you a little bit about each one. First of all, this one is on digital visitation, and you can go to the YouTube channel. You get a link to each one of these, but you can always go to 5 Minutes to Better Sundays on our YouTube channel. You'll see those there. You can type in 5 Minutes to Better Sundays, and it's going to probably find this in the word digital visitation. We've actually had a lot of views on this particular one. This is the idea here of, you got to get people in, and we visit them and we remind them to come to church. Again, it's not the idea of begging. I don't think I beg people for things, but it's like, man, I worked really hard. I got some really good stuff for you. You need to come. It's kind of like if you're a gal and you've been cooking a great meal, and you kind of ring the bell and ding 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 ding, and you say, hey kids, come to dinner. We got good stuff here. Okay, it's that type of thing. Digital visitation is going to really help you to get people in and to remind you. We send out reminders to our people all the time to make it to services. The second one And this is from an Easter challenge we did a few years ago, and it went really, really well. It's how to bring people back the week after Easter. Okay, now this, you can apply this towards Easter because that's coming up in a few months if you'd like. But you can take a look at this one, about a 10-minute video. It's got some really good training on how to bring people back. And at our church, we don't measure our success on Easter by the number of people that showed up on Easter. We measure our success by the number of people that came back the following week. Let me say that again. We measure our success, okay? And I'm not talking about all our success. Obviously, the success is preaching the word and being faithful to God and all that. But I'm just talking about, we have some objectives that we want to do, and we would like to reach young families of our community. And so we work hard to bring them in, and we definitely want to bring them back. We don't like go, oh, big day, we had hundreds and hundreds here or whatever. It's like, how many families came back the week after Easter? And this video will teach you how to target to bring people back as opposed to just bringing them in. Okay, so that video is on YouTube as well. You'll get the link. And this one with the peculiar sign, I got a lot of flack for this, Meth Church. Some people thought it had to do with Methodism. It's like, no, it's not Methodist Church, okay? We were just talking about the idea, and you got to watch the video. You'll see it. But the idea of creating that anticipation where people are like, man, I've got to be there. And I want to be at church no matter what. I'm going to make it to church. That type of thing, that type of drive is anticipation that I talked about. And this video will teach you a little bit about that. Also on our website, we have the Getting Guests to Return podcast. This has got some of the basic things that we talked about here today. And if you're a podcast listener, I want to encourage you to go and subscribe to this, and by the way, you can subscribe if we go back to the YouTube videos there. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate that. That would be good. We really need actually some more subscribers to help us get to another level in YouTube, which gives us a little bit more flexibility with the videos. The more you get watchers in video and people subscribing to your channel, the more they let you do different things, which is helpful. And we don't have a huge viewership there. I think we get 300 and some. But we'd love to have you subscribe to that, subscribe to this one. And then, of course, our Better Sundays podcast that I mentioned just a little bit. You can go to any podcatcher and type in Better Sundays podcast, and you're going to get it. It's going to show up with those couple of words that are there. So anyway, this one here, really going to help you. Just got some of the plain old simple stuff. So, all right. Tanim, do we have some questions? Do you have any there? I know we're giving out a couple things, and these should be arriving in their mailbox. But do you have any questions that have come in, or any things that I have missed?
Yeah, actually, we do have a question there, and it's one it's actually one that we struggle with a little bit.
Okay.
How do you get people to subscribe to your channel?
Is this speaking like the YouTube channel, or subscribe to like a?
So, yeah.
Oh, well, it's the same way we get them to come back to anything we ask them. Okay. You got to have good content, and you got to ask them to do it and give them the reason to subscribe. It's kind of like reviews. How do you get people to leave reviews on your church page? We have a whole, actually, we're going to do a training on that because it's really important thing. It gives you a lot of good mojo there with Google, is to have a lot of reviews, but you need to just simply ask them to leave a review. That is one of the most important things. If you would please leave us a review, that would be good. If you give them a benefit of leaving a review, that is even better. Some people, have contests or this or that. One of the most effective things that we did, and it kind of happened by accident, and I don't necessarily recommend or wish this to happen to you, but we are on Interstate 80 halfway across the United States, right about in the middle, and people driving across Wyoming and Nebraska, they must tend to get bored or something. So one day a guy was driving across, and he left our church picked up somehow because he's driving through the area, and he wrote like, God is dead, and you guys are a bunch of fools that worship a dead God or something like that. And it showed up on our Google reviews. It's like, oh, well, that's a nice thing to have. So I went on church the next Sunday and I said, hey, we need a few Google reviews here because we got a guy that gave us like 0 stars or 1 star and said God was dead. So we need a few reviews to kind of push him off the edge and get our numbers back up to where they need to be. Man, we had an onslaught of reviews. They were great, all sorts of good ones because of that. But we gave them a reason to leave a review, and we asked them to leave a review. So if you're talking about websites, any type of thing, just simply asking people, and we'll ask you to do that. If you would go onto YouTube and click the subscribe button, that would be a great thing for us. We appreciate that. Appreciate that very much, and hit the little bell that way you get a notification every time we put something up. That would be great as well. So good question. You got another one there, Tim?
Yeah, and while we're on the subject of subscribing, we do have our YouTube channel. We also have 2 different podcast channels. There's the new Better Sundays podcast channel, which Mike is doing. And there's also our back catalog, which you can find if you search for Reachkeep in any podcatcher. And you can subscribe to that and get a lot of our older stuff, which was also really good content that we did together a few years back. And also, speaking of subscribing and links.
Yes. Is that a cue for me? Or did you just disappear? Did I lose everybody? I don't hear anybody. I'm not sure what I've done. So anyway, we hope that you're still with us here. It shows
I turned my microphone on. Man, that was a bummer.
Okay. You did something there. You said, speaking of subscribing, and then you went dead.
I'm not sure how I ended up turning my microphone off right there. But speaking of subscribing, I just put the link up to register for our master class, how to get new families when you don't have many or any, which we'll be doing next weekend. I just posted the registration link for that up in the chat, and that will also be in the email that you'll be getting from us any minute now.
Yes, and we would love to have you. That is, again, one of our kind of staple things that we teach on, how to do that. We appreciate everyone that has been here on this webinar, but we have many other webinars. We do lots of other things, and you'll, again, if you're watching this on replay, you can go to a couple different places you can find our webinar links. The Better Sundays podcast has a button called webinars, and then the Reachkeep has one called webinars as well. And we've got to make sure those are updated. Tana, maybe remind me to look at those. But we do send a lot of these out in the Reaching Young Families Facebook page. That is where we send a lot of those things out. They go well there. We trust everybody has had a good webinar here. Tana, did you have any other questions? Anything we can answer? We try to keep people about an hour on this. I know a lot of you got a lot of church work you have to do. Got a big day tomorrow.
Actually, I haven't had. You must be doing a better job of being clear and concise, because the last couple of webinars we haven't had a whole lot of questions, which means you must be explaining things immaculately.
That's good to hear. That's a rare day. So anyway, we appreciate you folks being with us here. This is Mike here at Sinclair Baptist Church out here in Wyoming. You can look up sinclairbaptistchurch.com and take a look at our website. It's set up a little bit unique compared to most websites. Also, you go to reachkeep.com and find plenty of our things. And then our academy, which we sponsors all of this, and many of you actually that are on with us here are academy students. We did kind of open this up to invite a lot of people from the Reaching Young Families and a couple other avenues that we have. But our Reachkeep Academy is going to be open for enrollment again here coming up at our next webinar at the end of the month. So we're kind of excited about that. It's always fun to get some new people. I had a great conversation, a couple of them this last week, with some of our students going through and helping them out with some particular different things. If you are one of our Academy students and we have not chatted in a while, we would love to have you just on the Reachkeep page there, or you can just get hold of me at info@reachkeep.com. Shoot me a note. We'll see if we can get connected and talk about whatever it happens to be. We've been talking about a lot of the reaching young families techniques here lately. A lot of it seems to be digital stuff. We've had a lot of questions about how churches can become more digital and be more in tuned and more connected with their society. That has gone really, really well. Talked about some of the things that we in your curriculum. Those of you that are in our academy know this. We have a whole series on how to have amazing Sundays. And we teach a lot on amazing Sundays. And if you want to really have some great Sundays, you might need to consider being involved with the Academy. We'll talk all about it next week when we get you there at that webinar, how to reach new young families when you don't have any or many. And we're going through kind of like I've got written there a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff. Okay. There's some underlying things that help us minister. And when we get some of those underlying kind of philosophies down, it really gives you something to hang those strategies and tactics onto. And then from there, boy, you can really start ministering. So sure excited about it. Tanim, I think we're kind of done for the day. I'm going to let you sign out, tell everybody what needs to be done. I will double check back with you in just a little bit and make sure that you're doing okay. But again, from those of us here in Wyoming to those of you there around the nation and around the world, we appreciate you so much. If you're watching this on replay, God bless you. Thanks for making it. Tanim, I'm going to sign out, and we'll let you take it from here.
Alrighty. Hey, those of you who are here with us live today, you should have gotten an email here just a few minutes ago that has all the links that I posted up here in the last few minutes, and then PDFs that we offered up last week. You'll also receive another email here tomorrow afternoon that will have a link to the replay. So if you want to rewatch this, or you've got another pastor friend who you think really needs to see what we're doing here, you can go ahead and click on that or forward that to them. As we mentioned earlier, we do have the Reachkeep podcast, the Better Sundays podcast, our YouTube channel, and also on that reachkeep.com website. We've got some other stuff on there besides just podcasts. We've also got blog posts and videos, and a lot of really helpful content. I invite you to go ahead and check that out. And I think, don't forget to sign up for the masterclass webinar. And hey, if you would, email me at solutions@reachkeep.com and let me know, or Mike at info@reachkeep.com. Let us know what topics you would like to see. Where do you need maybe a little bit of help and coaching? How can we be more helpful to you? That's why we're here. We are here to help you to grow and to reach more young families. And that being the case, we'd like to really keep it relevant for you. So if you would let us know kind of what sort of things we can help you with. Do you need help on how to improve your website, how to improve your Facebook and email strategy, how and where to put signage, what to do with your nursery, how to get volunteers, how to get your people to volunteer, anything we can do to kind of help you, give you some information, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with that. That's, like I said, that's why we're here. In the meantime, hey, don't forget again to sign up for that webinar next week. And hey, you have a great week, and we will see you then.